In this very lesson, we shall be looking at the minors and cofactors of a matrix. And remember, we are still on the same topic, matrices. So let's begin with the minors of a matrix. So we are saying that if A is a square matrix, and we know what square matrices are, then the minor Mij of an element Aij is the determinant of the matrix obtained by deleting the I flow and then the j column of the matrix. So we are saying that this is our matrix A, and we want to find the minor of this matrix. And we are saying that to obtain the minors of this matrix, then we have to delete the ith row and then the jth column of this matrix, and we find the determinant of what still remains. Let me explain the I and then the j in this aspect. So we have the I and then the j. The I refers to the row, and then the j refers to what? The column, where the I and j are what? Numbers. So the Aij is just to tell us the position of the entry within the matrix. We are saying that the I and j, they are numbers. I is the row and then j is the column. So when you have A11, this is telling us the position of the entry within the matrix. This is telling us that we have said this entry is at the first row of the first column. So we have the first row, so this is the first row and the first column. So we are referring to what? This entry. So when you have A21, this is telling us that this entry is at the second row of what? The first column. So this is the second row of the first column. So second row of the first column. Then we are talking about what? This entry. Similarly, A33 is telling us that this entry is at the third row and then the third column. So this is the third row and this is the third column. So we are referring to this entry. So this notation is to help us identify the positions of the entries within the matrix. Similarly, if you have Mij, it is telling us the position of the minor within the matrices. So if you have N11, so this is telling us that this minor is at the first row and then the first column of the matrix. So if we are representing it, we are going to represent it at this very side. It is at what? The first row and then the first column of the matrix. That's the meaning of this notation, Mij and then Aij. Now let's look at how we can find the minors of this matrix. So we have the duplicate of this matrix here, and we are saying that to find the minors, we are going to what? Delete the ith row and then the j column, and then find the determinant of what still remains. So we are looking for M11. That is the minor of the first row and then the first column. So if we are looking for the minor of the first row and the first column, then we are going to delete the first row and then the first column of the matrix, and then we find the determinant of what remains. So we are going to find the determinant of what remains. So we find the determinant of this, and this is going to give us A22 multiplying A33 minus what? A23 multiplying A32, and that is going to be the minor of M11. So we have it here. So now let's look for the minor of the first row and then the second column. We want to look for the minor of the first row and then the second column. So in that case, we are going to delete the first row and then the second column. So this is the first row, and then this is what? The second column. Then after that, we find the determinant of what remains. So the determinants are A21 multiplying A33 minus what? A23 multiplying what? A31. And that is going to be the minor for M12. So we have M12. Now let's look at find the minor of M13. We have M13, which means the minor of the first row and then the third column. So this is the first row and this is the third column. So we are going to delete the first row and then we delete the third column. Then after that we find the determinant of what remains. So we have the determinants are A21 minus A21 multiplying A32 minus A22 multiplying A31. So that's the determinant of this. So that is what the minor of the first row and then the second column. Now I want to find the minor of the second row of the first column. So the minor of the second row of the first column. So this is the second row and this was the first column. So we are going to delete that. So we are going to delete this and we'll be left with what? That. Then after that we find the determinant of that. So we have A12 multiplying A33 minus A32 multiplying A13, and that's going to be what? The minor of this entry. So we are going to repeat the same procedure so we get all the minors for all the entries. So you can continue, complete it. So when you complete it, we are going to have M22. So these are the minors of the matrix. Now to obtain the cofactors, we are going to multiply these minors by these signs. So we have plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, and then plus, minus, plus. So we are going to multiply these minors by these signs. So we have our cofactors. So we have this times that will give us M11 minus times M12 will give us minus M12. Positive times M13 will give us M13. Then we have minus times this will give us minus M21. Positive times M22 will give us M22. And then minus times this will give us minus M23. And then we have positive times this will give us positive M31. This is going to give us minus M32. And this is going to give us positive M33. This means that to obtain the cofactors of a squared matrix, we need to find what? The minors first. And once we have the minors, then we multiply these minors by these signs. Now we can obtain these signs using the formula minus 1 raised to the power I plus j. So if we are looking for the first entry, we are going to have minus 1. Our I is 1. Our j is also 1. So we are going to have minus 1 raised to the power 2, and that is going to give us positive 1. If we are looking for the second entry, which is this one, then we are going to have minus 1. Our I is what? 1. Our j is 2, and that is going to give us minus 1 raised to the power 3, and that is going to give us minus 1. So we have the minus. So we use this formula to help us achieve or obtain these signs as easy as that. Now that we know this, let's take examples and see how best we can apply it in solving questions. So we have our first example. We want to obtain the minors and cofactors of this matrix X. So first of all, we have to first find our minors. So we have our minors. Let's use this for the minors. Now let me write this thing here. So in find the minors, we are going to find the first entry, which is M11. M11 means that we should delete what? The first row and then the first column. So we are going to delete this row and then this column. Then after that, we find the determinant of the square matrix remain. So we have the determinant of what remains. We have 4 times 1 will give us 4 minus negative 1 times 0 will give us 0. So the determinant of this is going to be what? 4. So this entry is going to be what? 4. Then we move on to M12, right? So we are looking for this entry. So this means that we are going to delete the first row and then the second column. So this is the first row and this is the second column. Then after that we find the determinant of the square matrix remain. 1 times 1 will give us 1. We have minus, this time this will give us what? 5. So 1 minus 5 will give us what? Minus 4. So this entry is what? Minus 4. So let's look for M13, that is the minor at this position. So M13 means that we should delete what? The first row and then the third column. So this is the first row and then this is the third column. Then after that we find the determinant of the square matrix that has remained. So we have 1 times 0 give us what? 0, and then we have minus, this time this is going to give us minus 4. So this is giving us what? Positive 4. So this entry is going to be what? Positive 4. Then we move on to M21. So M21 means we should delete what? The second row and then the first column. So this is the second row and this is the first column. Then after that we find the determinant, and that is going to give us, this will give us 2 minus, this is going to give us 0, and that is what? 2. So this entry is going to be what? 2. So let's look for this minor M22. M22 means that we should delete the second row and then the second column. Then after that we find the determinant. So we have 0 times 1 will give us 0. We have minus, this time that is going to give us minus what? 1, and we have positive 1. So this entry is going to be what? Positive 1. Let's look at this entry M23. So M23 means that we should delete the second row and then the third column. So we have 0 times 0 give us 0. We have minus, this is also giving us minus 2, and we have a positive 2. So this entry is going to be what? Positive 2. Now let's look for this minor M31. Now M31 means that we should delete the third row and then the first column. Then we find the determinants. This time this is going to give us minus 10 minus, this is giving us what? 4. So this is going to give us what? Minus 14. So M31 is going to be what? Minus 14. Let's look at M32. Minor M32. So M32 means that we should delete the third row and then the second column. Then we find the determinant. We have 0 times negative 5 will give us 0. 1 times 1 will give us 1. So we have minus 1. So this entry is going to be what? Minus 1. Let's look at the last minor. So we have M33. It means we are going to delete the third row and then the third column. So we have the determinant. 0 times 4 give us 0, and this is going to give us 2. So we have what? Minus 2. So these are the minors of this matrix. So we have the cofactor. So the cofactor, as I said, we are going to multiply it by this signs: plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. So we are just going to add or multiply these signs by this number. So this is going to give us what? 4. So we have minus times minus 4 give us positive 4, and then we have positive 4. This is giving us minus 2. This is giving us 1. This is giving us minus 2. The last one we have minus 14. This is giving us positive 1, and this is giving us what? Minus 2. So these are the cofactors of this matrix. As easy as that. So this is how we find the minus and cofactor of a matrix. This brings us to the end of today's lesson. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.